the festivities begin. So we will begin with Ethelbert Miller. I'm really looking forward to this. He was born in the Bronx, attended Howard University, where he received a BA in African American Studies in 1972. A self-described literary activist, Miller is on the board of the Institute for Policy Studies and served as director of the African American Studies Resource Center at Howard University for 4 decades. He has many collections of poetry and is the editor of the anthologies Women Surviving Massacres and Men, In Search of Color Everywhere. Well, that won a Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Award and was a Book of the Month Club selection. Bravo. Beyond the Frontier. And I will get a link and post that in chat too, so that if anybody wants to order a book, that would be available. He's the author of memoir Bothering Words, The Making of an African American Writer. This is interesting. The mayor of Baltimore made Miller an honorary citizen of the city in 1994. He received a Columbia Merit Award in 1993 and was honored by First Lady Barbara Bush at the White House in 2003.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
I'm sorry.
He has conducted writing workshops for soldiers and the families of soldiers through Operation Homecoming. Oh, Bill and Ethelbert, you two may want to get together on that. Miller is the founder and director of the Ascension Poetry Reading Series, one of the oldest literary series in the Washington area, and for a decade served as the editor of Poet Lore, the oldest poetry magazine in the United States. He served as commissioner for the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities from 1997 to 2008, is board emeritus for the Penn Faulkner Foundation. And oh my gosh, I could go on for a while here, but I would rather hear you read. So let's welcome Ethelbert Miller.
Thank you. You keep reading, it'll be an obituary.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to read 6 poems. This is the Memorial Day weekend, so I'm going to begin with this poem entitled, Black Men Are Precious. Black men, Black friends having strokes, Black men younger than me, good men with bad hearts, men who did not follow their fathers into factories or the post office, Black men who went off to college and pulled themselves up by degrees, men who did not sink into despair, but lifted their families into new homes. Black men who survived the bullets, streets, and police. Black men who saw the horizon and the stars. They marched as if Garvey held out his hand, not to Ethiopia, but to our hearts. Black hearts, now failing for unknown reasons. Why? Why do we die so young? Why are we not like our grandfathers sitting on the porch rocking away the years? Why are we not the Black men returning from the wars and lifting our girlfriends up into wives again? Why do we date this early death? After all the exercise and pills, after the changing diet, why is there such a cruel hunger that appears and takes our years? Black men, my friends resting in their open coffins, waiting for someone to sing, Precious Lord, and take their hand. Black hands closing with so much love still left to give. My next poem is a poem that I'm going to be using for an exhibit at the Casson Art Center next summer. I'm collaborating with Harpeth Talib, who's a visual Ethiopian artist, and we have an exhibit that's going to be called the Era of Exile, and this is one of the poems. Harpeth's work is primarily abstract. One of the things that we have in common is that the word blue appears in many of my poems, and blue is one of the colors that appears to me for abstract art, so there's a connection there. The blue years. And then we walked out into the rain, as if we were walking to the sea. So many weeping because of dangerous memories. Life is a flood of tears. We were born somewhere between heartbreak and desire. the place we fled before the crying. The blue years when we had no food or water. The blue years when many were strangled by the air. So much thirst, too much blueness on our tongues. That's called the blue years. I've been writing a lot about aging. I'm in my, like what I call my seventh inning. I'm 70, and that's the decade that you don't want to fall. You know, many people are in homes not because of old age, but because they fell and could no longer navigate their homes. So I've been writing a lot about the aging process. Sometimes that is connected to my themes of when I'm writing about baseball. So I talk about the seventh inning. The same way when I reached 50, I was talking about, you know, the fifth inning, not the middle age crisis, but the fifth inning. And so this poem is a recent poem. I wrote for my friend Maria. Maria is one of my good friends, Maria Otero. We were founders of the Humanities Council of Washington, D.C. Maria served in the Obama administration. She was Undersecretary of State to Hillary Clinton. Very talented woman, a person who's been a long friend. And this is a friendship poem about us aging, crossing the line for Maria. Sitting across the table from you, I think back to when our friendship came down from the mountains. It was a cold day and the miners had not left for work. You break a cookie in half like bread, and this sharing is what we both now need. That which breaks into crumbs are memories. Your gray hair cut short and you ask if I notice. How can I tell you that Bolivia will always be beautiful and everything I notice is you, and yes, is you. Our napkins folded in our hands, folded as if our meeting now was prayer. Did I ever tell you that your eyes are a map and I would lose myself if you ever turned away? And this next poem comes out of our news headlines. This is called Ceasefire for Gaza and Israel. After the fire, the darkness descends, and then the coldness multiplies and divides us still. We grope in the dark, reaching to touch something human, to touch another, to know another, to touch not fear or the darkness near. To cease fire is not forgetting, but to remember the burning, the smoke and hatred inhale, the choking and struggling to breathe and believe in the fragrance of peace, the sweetness that must never cease. Oh, how blind this fire in our eyes. The anger that never dies, its embers stabs and stabs again. This earth too often shadows hell, and we continue to be neither lover or friend. Those are some poems. When you have these Zoom sessions, you can do commercials like, okay, I have a book. Okay, this is my new collection. When your wife has Tommy John surgery, and this is my second collection of baseball poems. A couple years ago, I did If God Invented Baseball, and so as I tell people, there's a sequel to everything except Catwoman with Halle Berry, but that's another issue if you're into movies. So I want to read you one poem from this collection, When Your Wife Has Tommy John Surgery, and then I'll close with my closing poem. Roberto. Some kids in the projects didn't have gloves. They caught better, barehanded, or so they wanted us to believe. Roberto's mother got him Converse sneakers, but they had no star in the logo. He cried until we left him alone. It was all his mother could afford. We didn't know this because we were children and had no kids of our own. We had gloves, cheap gloves, gloves with no pockets, no matter how much you kept punching into the center of them. The gloves had missing pockets, like our missing fathers who punched our mothers and swung bats on our heads. Our fathers were gone, and we outgrew their absence. Our hands became too large for small gloves. Many were lost or stolen. One winter, we threw and caught snowballs with stiff fingers. Roberto once got me good and kept laughing, saying he was Clemente. That was the year after he discovered he was Puerto Rican, and Spanish had yet to melt in his mouth. And so that's one of my baseball poems from When Your Wife Has Tommy John Surgery. And as I mentioned, when I was reading the poem about Maria, you know, I was writing about aging, but in these two books about baseball, both books begin with childhood memories about playing baseball, and then they go to like the seventh inning, Old Timers Day, and so you see this progression. And I find that baseball is a really good metaphor for the times we live in. This is my last poem, and I don't know how many of you sometimes when you look at where some of the ideas for your poems come from, it might be in correspondence. And there's one person who I think has made a significant impact, at least on my life, but especially in terms here in Washington, D.C. She's a person that I associate with the book. If you haven't met her, there's a woman who walks around Washington, D.C. who's Anna Thorne. And Anna at one time worked at Busboy. She worked at Upshur Street Books. She is a book person, you know. And in one of our correspondence recently, she said, okay, after the pandemic, I'll meet you in, you know, the after time. I just like that, the after time. So I wrote the poem for after time, and I named it after Anna. After my death, take my poems and use them for wood. May they give you warmth on cold nights. May my poems provide with light and direction, turning your compass towards goodness. Love the wood for its beginnings, for the language of trees. Offer prayers when my words turn to ash. Speak them to mark your way out of darkness in the aftertime. So thank you. And what was that? What used to be on that license plate? Virginia is for lovers. So I love you madly is what Duke Ellington always said. So I love you madly. And I wish you all well with your careers.
Hey, Ethelbert, thank you so much for sharing your poems with us. There are a lot of comments, so look at the chat box to read some of the comments. We are so lucky to have had you come read. Terry, great job at bringing him. I'm going to turn it over to Sophia Starnes, who is a Poet Laureate Emeritus, Emerita, and she's going to introduce our North American Book Awards. Sophia.
Thank you. And that was really wonderful reading, really, really wonderful reading.